Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Coffee with Vista Sunrise Toastmasters. Our guest this morning is none other than Tom Holland, a member of our club. And this morning, we're going to discuss one of the propositions on the California ballot for this November, Proposition 53. Let's give a welcome to Tom Holland.
Good morning, Sean. It's good to be here.
Hey, Tom, what can you tell us about Proposition 53?
Proposition 53 is about reining in government, pretty much. It's a bill that will require a vote of the people for any bond that is over $2 billion. This applies to any projects, and I'll quote here, any projects that are financed, owned, operated, or managed by the state or by a joint agency formed between the state and a federal government agency, any other state, or any other government.
What fiscal impact will this have on our state?
That's going to be indeterminate. It's going to be hard to determine that. The purpose is to save money, or at least give the voters a chance to vote on any really, really large project. Considering the restrictions on it of $2 billion, most projects will fall under that. There are very few projects that are in that scope. One is a high-speed rail, but that was passed by the voters, and that's going through, and it will probably continue to be funded. But once it's the voters have approved it, other projects that might be affected are dams, water projects, water aquifers, desalination plants, and other similar projects, but most of those are always going to be under the $2 billion mark.
Certainly, large projects can be broken down into smaller projects to stay below that limit. Won't this be more expensive?
It will be, because any project has its own set of bureaucratic costs. Everything that's voted in, there will be certain costs associated with it. But at the same time, when you have these mega projects, that will increase the chance of fraud, waste, and abuse. So it probably should balance out.
Tom, what would you say an argument for Prop 53 is?
One is the high-speed rail. It was voted in by the voters, and we were told to be $10 billion. Well, it's 2.5 years ago, the LA Times projected the price is not going to be $10 billion, but $68 billion. And that's something that the voters should be continuing to vote on.
What would you say is an argument against it?
Opponents think that this will restrict projects at the local level, but being as every project out there is way below the $1 billion or the $2 billion mark, local projects would never ever be affected. Also, projects can be broken up. You don't have to have a waterway or an aquifer or a desalination plant all bundled together. If they were, then they would exceed that $2 billion mark. But if they're separate as they should be and voted on separately as they should be, then they'll stay under that mark, and it'll save the taxpayers dollars.
Tom, where can we find more information on this proposition?
The best place to find the official information is at the California State Secretary's website. I could give you that website, but it's long and complicated. The best way is to do a web search on Proposition 53, California. And you'll not only get the California's official proposition site, but you'll also get people that are for it and against it, so you get a good mix. But if you are really interested on seeing what the main opponents and proponents say, the first one is yeson53.com, and the second one is noon53.com. So those are pretty simple.
Tom, I want to thank you for that and ask if we can open it up to the audience for any questions.
Yes, I'd like to do that. Yes, Karen.
No, we're here in North County, but I just wonder what you think about the propositions for the Chargers' new stadium in an area downtown that doesn't even have space for parking. and the $1.8 billion cost of it, the majority of it, that will be paid for by taxpayer money, putting taxpayer money into a private for-profit company versus taking that taxpayer money and putting it into much-needed infrastructure such as roads, employees, things like that.
Me, personally, seeing the expense of that and the fact that San Diego will be spending a lot of money, the statistics that I've seen is that it takes many, many, many years for the taxpayers to recoup that money. Personally, I think the billionaires that have these teams, I think they need to step up and pay for them themselves, personally.
Excuse me, I've got a question.
Yes,
Why are they even asking us, this is a private enterprise, why are they even asking us to pay for stuff like that? I mean, I don't understand that.
you mean the owners of the chargers?
Yeah, right. I mean,
Because they have in the past and the cities have done it. People ask and cities and populations step up and they pay for it because there are a lot of people, not necessarily in San Diego, but in other cities. There are some, Philadelphia, they're a real sports-minded city. New York's the same way. And there are people that vote and they vote in these bonds to pay for the stadiums. I don't think it's right, but personally, but that's what they do. Yes, Jerry?
One question, has there been a projected revenue from the stadium for the city? Because the city does gain revenue, does it not?
Yes, it does. City gains revenue and all the business around it gain revenue, the hotels, the restaurants, the breweries. There are a lot of revenue sources for something like this. It also revitalizes downtown San Diego. I've seen the projections, but not being a sports fan, it's really not that important to me, so I couldn't quote anything about that right now.
All right, and that is going to wrap up this week's show. I want to thank Tom for coming out, and we'll see you next time.